Kev, I was so proud of you. I really was like, who is that? Right? Because I don't know if you realize, in that space, you were very different than sometimes you are in the building. He showed up and showed out. Right? Rose was on her way. Right? The questions she was asking, follow-up questions she was asking. How you as a group were tracking the speaker in the room. How your leadership competencies were beginning to shine through in that moment. All the work that we've done, all the work we aspire to do, is about moments like those. But it's not about one program. We can't program our way out of poverty. Right? And it's not about who can create the best water. Right? I got a program, and somebody else got the same kind of program, and then we start seeding doubt in each other's efforts. Oh, they don't do that no more. They don't do it like they used to. They're not as good as we are. We don't have to do that. I don't have to be small for you to be big. We can all coexist. That's what the idea of OYM is, a network. And it is complicated on purpose. The idea was, if I pulled 10 levers at one time, it's harder to kill us. So please, continue to do what you're doing. Continue to show up for yourselves, young people. Mark, Kalisha, I'm really, really just excited to see you guys working together all the time. I remember where we started, and I just continue to see progress. And that progress it's exciting, and that progress is important to this idea of a collective. We have to be mindful of, I said a bad word, but there's a difference between black people and niggas. We have to be mindful of the voice of the nigga in our head. We have to fight them. And love each other, support each other, in spite of some of that craziness that we hear in our heads. Mark?
So, I'm a PK, I'm a preacher's kid. So there's times you walk into church on Sunday, you're about to preach, and then you see who's in the audience, and you realize I had the wrong message. And I say that to say, I whispered in Kalisha's ear, and my sister Nia too. Like, I feel like we got the choir, right? Like, I don't have to convince anybody here that the voices of young people are important. I don't have to convince anybody in this circle that young people are ready to lead now. And we're going to call a little bit of an audible for my young people, because I know we prep and you got some of the questions ahead of time, but I think you guys are always game time ready, so I don't think you're going to be thrown off by my audible. I'm gonna throw out a question, and while the young people are thinking about this question to themselves, I'm gonna direct something to the adults in the room for a second, and then I'm gonna ask some people to share their kind of responses to this question. So, some of you got to hear what the mayor, right, panel talked about this morning, and someone said to me, you know, nobody's gonna disagree with this idea of young people leading. Everybody clapped, right? We even stood up and clapped, and we were like, yes, let's do that. But then it doesn't seem to happen in schools. There are many different schools represented here, and the question is a hard one, and it's not one that I sent you to prep for, so I'm clear, I'm calling it an audible. The question is, why does what we just heard right now about putting young people in positions of leadership right now in their schools, why doesn't that happen on Monday? Why is it so hard on Tuesday for the adults to get out the way and for you guys to actually lead right now in the building? Take some time, think about it. Test it. Testing, okay. So take a second, take 30 seconds. why is it so difficult to take what everybody just agreed we should do and actually make it happen in the building, which is to have you, as young people, be the leaders of what's happening in these buildings right now. While you do that, think on that. I need the adults to pay attention to me for a second. I want to be able to norm the adults in the room to something, which is kind of what this is an opportunity for us, okay? So, and you wrote it here. It's not my handwriting. I wish I could write so neatly, but I want to be able to orient the adults to this idea of what this session is. It is an opportunity for us to ask questions. Not to tell young people what we think, not to tell them what we think is the answer, but for us to ask questions. And so I'm gonna push all the adults in the room. If you have some gray in your beard or in your hair, or if you should have some gray, you know what I mean? I'm gonna push you to ask more questions than you actually give answers. Add question marks instead of periods at the end of what you say, please. I'm gonna ask that in that same vein, you seek to understand. You probe, right? Listen. Say, let me tell you what I think I heard you say so that I'm clear when you hear young people share what they're going to share. It's an opportunity for you to talk with young people, not at. It's one of the things I've heard young people say often, right? And it is a time to share the mic, so be cognizant, the adults, of the fact that we're here to hear from young people. Not from me or you, respectfully. Okay? So, I had asked a question, and the question that I asked of our young people was, no disagreement that you guys are ready to lead and should be leading in our buildings. So from where you sit, why isn't that happening now?
Good morning. So to answer your question, I feel like it's so much harder for people to put their money where their mouth is, because you can always say that we're gonna listen to kids, but nobody actually listens to us and what we gotta say. And especially in the schools. In school, I feel like the teachers and staff, they pick and choose who they want to work with instead of, trying to help and encourage other kids that might not be like very educated or want to get education. And I feel like it's a lot of favoritism, because favoritism is like when they pick and choose, y'all not giving other kids opportunities and chances to even be where other kids might be, or even, yeah. I've seen a lot of, in school, out of all the schools I've been to, favoritism is like a teacher and a student that be like they favorite. Like it's always them, instead of giving other people the chance. Like, say Kevin was somebody like star student, they will always go to Kevin instead of giving Kayla or Febby a chance to even speak out or a chance to go participate in other events and stuff like that. So, I'm just saying.
How y'all doing? Good morning. My name is Michael Williams. I feel as though to answer that question, right, with why we don't feel as though we can lead, I feel like some of us young people don't know what it is to lead or what it means to lead because we don't have a role model in that nature, And another thing, I feel as though some of us youth, we want change, but we're not willing to do we're not willing to do the work for change to happen. Some of us, y'all could be hungry. It's the difference between being hungry and starving. If somebody's starving, they'll do whatever it takes to get something. Somebody could be hungry and just be like, I'm just hungry. I know I can get it, right? So I feel as though that ties all together, because I feel as though everything is one-sided in a sense, like with favoritism, it's all one-sided. And a lot of us youth, everything is such a trend nowadays. It's not really a community-based thing. It's such a trend. Everything is for likes or views. So if one thing is being set a trend, I feel like everything will follow behind. But it's a lot different now than it was back then, where you'll see protests and you'll see everyone coming together. We don't have that now. You know, if you see a protest online, then it's like, oh, maybe we should do that because it's cool to do that. You know what I'm saying? And I feel as though people in Newark in general should not be doing this just for a trend. I feel like it should just be a norm. Because if we want change, we should do whatever it takes to make change to happen.
Hello, how y'all doing? My name is Brianna Spencer. I just feel as though, we have so many intelligent minds that come together. We do get put in leadership positions. It's fun in the beginning, but, once we continue to bring forth ideas and things, they do tend to get shut down. And that kind of lessens our motivation to want to be put forth in these leadership positions. Because it's like, we have a voice, we explaining our needs, our wants, and it could be a good thing because we are the younger generation as of right now, and we know what we want, we know what we like. If we put forth in these positions and they're actually able to be followed through, I feel as though, it'll bring more of the youth to leadership positions. More of the youth will want to look up and be like, I want to be a part of that group, or I want to be in that position. You feel me? That's really all I had to say.
How y'all doing? The question was like, why younger people? It was like, why younger people don't lead in school?
Why is it that we don't see that leadership happening necessarily in schools?
Wow. And like my opinion, the reason why like I don't really like the leading role is because well, the reason why I could say it's not a lot of younger people leading in school is because like if I tell you to do something that I see that you're doing wrong, you feel me, you probably disrespect me. You feel me? We're not gonna have that mutual respect. So like I'd rather not just lead at all. Just do what I gotta do and let you do what you gotta do. So I feel as though like that's one of the main reasons why there's not a lot of leaders, because like all of the stuff that's gonna come with it, you're gonna be responsible for them. They do something wrong, all right, why you ain't like, but it's like it's not your job to really be telling them what they should and shouldn't be doing. That's what I got to say to it.
How y'all doing? My name Taji. I want to add on to what Quill said. What was the last thing you just said? You just said, yeah, like, all right. So I feel like a lot of students ain't really leading because it's like students, like the youth listen to the youth. Like if you listen to an adult, it's more off the strength that like we like them, like we respect them, like they got our backs type joint. Like all right, they do for us and we do for them. Like all right, we look at them as a friend. You feel me? But if the youth talk to the youth and tell them what they doing wrong and what to do right, I feel like people will listen because it's like, all right, this my man. So if he telling me it, then it's true. Rather than, all right, the teacher tell me it, in my eyes, it's really F the teacher. I don't really care what you're talking about. You feel me? Because teachers don't be understanding me for real, you feel me? My man's, he know who I am, like. He know what I'm going through. So if he telling me what to do and if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm looking like a goofy, then he telling me what I need to hear. So I need to chill. But the youth, everybody want to be cool. Everybody want to be this and that. So people ain't really trying to like sit down and be mature and do what they need to do. Everybody just want to do what they want to do, if that makes sense.
I think that the reason why there's not really a lot of kids like leading things is because some teachers or administrators will have that mindset that like, oh, we're adults, so we know better. And whenever we try to like come to them to compromise things, it'll be like, well, yeah, we could do that, but you don't understand why we're doing this, and we're doing this because you guys don't listen, or like that kind of stuff.
Hi. So what I was saying is about like the line that group friend that the line you follow, because like let's say that we all in a group and like we best friend and stuff like that. So if a adult bring it up and like all of us like think you're cool and stuff like everybody, oh man, oh my god, I'm sorry, and like be like, oh f that, and I don't care and stuff, but that's your job to do it. It's always like one of us that have that needs to have the gut and put a step forward and do it. It's always a line that like all of us like doing and like following. I don't know. So yes.
All right, I'm back on the mic. Sorry, y'all. But another thing I feel that is stopping us from being put in these leadership positions is unity. Like, as the youth, we don't have unity. If we had a unity, you know, it would be much more easy for us to be put in these positions and then have a whole line of students to have our backs on it. You know, it could be one group, you know, maybe 5 people, but, you know, you got a school of 300 students, and out of that 300 students, only 5 people are on board with you. That's not gonna motivate you to want to do it. Like, I had a teacher, Brother Akinyele, like he's a very, like, he's very inspirational. Like, he always was on us as students to, you know, come together, stop the violence, this, that, and the third. But, you know, you beefing with one person in the school, they in this group, you can't be in that group. Like, the unity is not there, and I feel like that's another important factor as to why we can't be put in the leadership positions. If you know how to lead something better than I do, I also know how to step down and, you know, take notes from you. It's never a problem to do that. But, you know, there was an altercation that I had sophomore year, which I graduated from Weequahic High School, class of 22. You know, I tried to handle it as an adult, you know, talk things over. And what was told to me by the dean was, you brought the problem to the school. And that kind of like, that's another thing, like that's a part of us being shut down. You expect us to act as adults, and when we take actions to act as an adult and, you know, be mature about things, we get shut down. Like, a simple conversation was all I wanted. I know how to have a conversation and converse and, you know, understand a misunderstanding.
I want to add on to what she was saying about how they put us in leadership positions, and they're saying how we should act in as an adult, but when we do, like, I just want to say, I think it's a stereotype thing. If you thinking about it, like, I always hear stories and people telling me how teachers are saying stuff like, oh, you will never get out of school, or you will never be anything if you continue doing what you're doing. I think it's like trust. They don't trust us. Like, living in an urban community, it's already expected that when you go to school, you're going to be a delinquent, you're going to do bad stuff, you're going to disrespect the teacher. You're not going to see a teacher put in 100% trust in the student, like, yo, today come to class and teach this class for me. Like, let me see what you could do. It's never, you never see a student doing stuff like that. We never have leadership positions because they don't believe that we can. They don't believe that we're mature enough, that we're mature enough to, like, successfully play that role. That's just what it is.
So I'm going to come to you guys in a second. I want to lift up what I've heard so far, which kind of both of these things can be true at the same time, and other things can be true. It sounds like what I'm hearing from young people is this idea of trust, right, or belief or opportunity from the adults in the building. And then there's another side of this, which is kind of the level of how prepared young people are to lead, right? And both of those things can be true. I just want to make sure I'm lifting those two things up. And for others in the room, feel free to jump in, right, if you have questions as well.
Hi, I'm back. Okay. I want to agree and add on to what Rose was saying, because I don't know if I'm oversharing, but I was told not just recently by a teacher that I shouldn't be in stuff like this because I smoke and stuff like that. But I feel like teachers don't understand what you go through at home. Like they shouldn't judge you on what you do, on how you live, but they do that anyway. So, like, yeah.
You say stuff like this.
Like meetings and like, yeah, stuff like, yes, leadership, yes. It's,
I want add on to what you were saying. I don't know your name, but I want to add on to it. Huh? What's your name? Brianna. I want to add on to what Brianna was saying. She said when somebody know how to lead better than her, she know how to step down and let that person take action. And the youth, people don't know how to do that. Like, everybody want to be the big man. Everybody want to be number one. Like, nobody know how to be number two. Nobody know how to play their position. Like, you got the leader. You got the person who tell the leader what to do. And you got the person who checking with the leader. Like, bro, why you want to be the main man, bro? Like, why you want to have the spotlight, bro? Like, just sit down. Like, we all winning at the end of the day. Like, you still getting a slice of the cake. Like, you might not get the biggest piece, but you still eating. Like, you feel me? So why you can't just sit back?
I just want to like wrap everything together. It's the reason why we can't lead in schools is because of the way the school, as we see the school and how the school sees us. It's like, okay, you can't manage the budget because you don't know how to manage budget. That's true. But like, isn't the whole point like for you to teach us? And like the way I saw school, for example, was that it was like a company. I was an employee. I would give you my work, you would grade my work, and I would get my future as payment for my work. And that I didn't see like myself talking to the CEO as an employee, the CEO being the principal. I didn't see me like giving him solutions or like problems, bringing up problems. I didn't see myself doing that until like I started hearing about all these like communities. Like, I didn't see it as a community. It wasn't a community. It was a place where I couldn't wait to get out of school, like a job.
I'm actually like in that position as of right now. I am a part of the NWK 40. Like, I did not want to go to college at all, but because that opportunity was placed in front of me, it's like, why not take a chance? You know, I'm going to school 4 years free. You know, they covering everything for me. And this, you know, this is the first time this is occurring, especially in Newark. Like, it's a big thing. So we kind of set the tone for what happens after this class. You know, this, like, in 4 years, they want to see all of us graduate. And then, you know, they are opening up to more universities. I am at St. Elizabeth University. But back to the previous question, you know, I feel like the support system is not there. You know, we don't feel like nobody has our back. Like, transitioning from high school to college, it was a big transition, and it was very different and hard for me to adjust because the support system that I have in college now is way different than the support system that I had in high school. Like, you know, and you in high school, you don't go to class, nobody's checking for you. You know, they just like, well, he know what he doing, he grown enough, you know, he know the consequences. But in college, like, they actually understand that real life happens. You know, you don't go to class, they sending out a care report for you. You don't turn in your work, your professors are emailing you, checking up on you to see if everything is okay. If things are going on, you know, they're there to make sure that you succeed. Like, they're there to make sure that you soar, you graduate on time. If you need help with anything, they offer, you know, a whole bunch of tutoring. Is free. Like, they give us more resources to depend on than we had in high school. The teachers, the support system are not there at all.
Yeah, how y'all doing? Back again. What's it called? I got sorta, well, not sorta, but at North Street Academy, they gave us like a leadership role. Cause like I was there with a previous class, but I was getting into too much trouble out here. So it wasn't like, I wasn't able to really focus and get done what I had to get done. So like, with me knowing that, like they put us in like a alumni class, basically like to show the new kids that came in how we came in, like, nah, like, this really could change you. Like, it could change the way how you think about certain stuff. Like, I'm talking about, like, real life stuff, because it's a couple, like, situations where I done learned, or using the stuff that I learned from school to help me in some real life, you feel me, situations that could have really put me in a worse spot than I was already, like, So, like, I feel as though they gave us an opportunity, you feel me, to show that we could lead, have people follow us the right way.
My experience in school was more like I was one of them students that, like, I was intelligent, but like I would always get into something like an altercation or something because of my mouth. And I seen that, like, it was the same students being put in the leadership roles. Like, it was like, you know, like, it's like those were the students that was the face of the school because they was doing everything right, wearing a uniform, and all of the students would just sit back in class while leadership roles was given to them. And in a sense, I kind of seen it as like, well, everybody seen it as like it was favoritism, but in reality, it was favoritism, but they were trying to basically push an image out. Like, this is what our school is about. These students are how every other student in our school is, and that wasn't the case. There were students that are troublemakers and stuff like that, but I felt like you shouldn't exclude or like isolate students from opportunities because you don't know, this opportunity might change this person's life. They was being bad, like being a delinquent, quote unquote, and now they are placed in this leadership role and people are inspiring them, changing them. You don't know that. But we were never given opportunities like that because we were considered to be the bad students. And I had recently wrote an essay about like the school system in general and the difference between like urban schools and like, you know, other schools. And I was saying that I feel like school is more seen as a place of reform. Like, if you don't have the right uniform on, you'll get in trouble. If like you running like in the hallways or you playing music, like they wasn't worried about teaching the student. It's half of like students in my class ain't even know like how to like basically like read and write, like the basics. And that's because they weren't worried about pushing that like onto us. They was not worried about what we was learning, but more of how we was looking to on the outside. They started kicking out students like out of the school. Like, I had a new principal. She came in, she was basically kicking out the bad seeds. Like, everybody that was bad, anybody that had problems in the school like previously or had like any record, everybody was kicked out. It was no like, we're gonna sit down and try to work with you, like, cause I want you to graduate. Like, same thing for that support system she was talking about. Like, we don't have that in high school. It's either like you do it the right way the first time or it's done. Your life is over. You don't have no future anymore. And then when that happens, what happens? Like, we go in the streets and we get sent to jail. It's just a cycle. And I feel like that's what happens.
It sounds like what you guys are saying is leadership is reserved for a select few young people.
Hi. So good morning, y'all. Good morning. I just wanted to first say thank you, young people, for being here and for sharing your wisdom in this space. This takes courage right here. And so I just want to like celebrate that and acknowledge that. And your vulnerability is super valuable. And like, even though the leadership may be complicated, like you took a risk and you're here, and like you're here in present or here on the mic. And I just wanted to like celebrate and acknowledge that, number one. Number two, this is kind of my question, right? So I am somebody who does believe in youth leadership and has a lot of experience putting, young people in position, right? What I have found, the response sometimes is what y'all have already brought up, which is the peer-to-peer struggle, right? So you talked about the unified, you talked about the if it's not my man's, then, right? So then it's like, y'all right, Ms. Beverly, you want me to lead morning meeting, but like they not listening to me. Like my mans will listen to me, right? But the person who's not my man is not listening to me, and now you want me to tell somebody else's child what to do. They not listening. Now you gonna make me come out my character because they not listening, and now where my leadership going? And you know what, Ms. Berry, forget all this. Just send me to class because they're not listening. Right? The peer-to-peer part, like how can we as people who do put you in the position, like how can we support you in helping your peers to be ready to hear your voice and like allow you to lead them, even if they're not your people, and people want the part of the pie, like you said. So like how can we help get your peers ready for your voice is kind of my question.
To add on what Rose was saying, she was talking about how like kids, if they had like basically they had two choices, school or jail. I feel like, me personally, in my opinion, I feel like we should do something for those that are in jail, because they have like sentences that's going on for so long. And when they get out, they don't have any like plan or anything for their life. And I was talking to, at the school I'm going to, I was talking to one of the people from Rikers Island. I had the opportunity to talk to them and talk to them about how good the school I'm going to is good. And I told them we should, like, us as kids, to talk to the kids and tell them how we should how they should get an opportunity of education, because when they get out, they're gonna be bums. It's either that or they get a job or have a job or have an education. So yeah.
To answer your question, well, not even to answer, like I just wanted to like point out that I feel like that's a very, very like difficult subject to touch on, because you gotta think of, like, I feel like it's war between what you learned at home and what you learning at school. So when you go to school, like everything like is set in place, like the rules, policies, they telling like no bullying, no violence, stuff like that. But when you in the streets, it's a whole different, you're learning a whole different like world. Like it's not the same thing. It's very hard to differentiate the difference between like this is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. Because in the streets, snitching would be the wrong thing. In school, they telling you like, oh, like if something is wrong, tell the teacher. But that's not something that we're okay with. That's not something we learned. Like you really gotta, like I feel like it's hard for you guys to understand that it's hard to do the right thing when you go home, people are telling you that's the wrong thing. When your friends is telling you that's the wrong thing. This is how I was raised. This is what I learned. This is what I already know is right, quote unquote. And then I'm going to school now, and they're telling me like, no, this is wrong. Like this is gonna put me in a bad position. And it's like you're debating. It's like you're debating which one's right, which one's wrong, and it's kind of hard because as soon as you leave school at 2:45, 3 o'clock, you at home following the same rules that people just told you that was wrong. Like you get what I'm saying? Like it's really a thin line when you talking about like what's right and what's wrong with people that live in an urban community. It's not the same thing. Like the same rules that you have to go by is not the same rules you gotta go by in school and in the streets.
Yes, that was I felt that. I definitely felt that. I just wanted to ask a question, and just tying it back to the purpose of this conference in equity, and we talk about equity, and I hear some of you guys saying it's the same children that's being picked for leadership roles, and I'm asking, so how do I not teach math if I'm an educator, but I teach Matthew if that's the student, right? Like, so how do I not teach math, but I'm actually teaching Matthew? How do I learn? And we say that because I'm Mark, actually Benedict's father, a student from Kafeli's leadership, and I know that sometimes when we talk about like equity, it's like, okay, you keep picking that student, but that student, you know, is growing up in a 2-parent household. So I'm functioning from a deficit. So if you have $5, right? And I mean, well, if you have $10 and I have $5, how do I learn that, right? Because I need to give you $5 more to catch up with that student. So you're picking that student, right? But you don't understand the conditions of my home. You don't understand my circumstances. You don't understand who my mother is or if my father is incarcerated. What can be done as leaders in the beginning of the school year, let's say, so that I know exactly who I'm teaching and I'm providing equity for all students, because I have to meet you where you are. And if I just have this perspective where like every student gets the same thing, that's not the right perspective as a leader. So what do you think, you know, your school district or whatever school, whatever program you are a part of, what can be done early on so I understand your circumstances and I'm actually teaching you, and it's not this the shoe fits all, one shoe fits all kind of mindset as a leader, because I want to make sure I'm giving you what you need, and I may actually be giving that student more and that student doesn't need anything. In fact, I need to pour into you a little bit more because of what you're coming from. So what suggestions can you give us as leaders to meet you where you are?
May I add on that? Hi, my name is Ja JB. So basically, I'm actually a graduate of the Essex County School District, but now I'm a member of the Youth Build organization. So I would like to answer both of your questions, to be honest. To answer your question at first, you actually asked how can you connect with the students? Well, while being a part of the Youth Build organization, we have actually practiced, understood, and implemented a philosophy, whereas we come together as a community. And the first sentence of that philosophy is, as a community, we are here with a united struggle. So once we understood that philosophy, it was easier to understand and listen to our peers more, because we understand that we are in a united struggle. And to answer your question, how can you like individually implement basically the individuality of each student? There's also another thing implemented in Youth Build, which is called the IDP, an individual development plan, which we were actually presented in the beginning of the school year. They actually did focus on us. They asked us questions about our household, and they understood us individually and not as a general whole, whereas I really believe the school district is doing. They're putting us in stereotypes, in groups, and just basically giving us our life summary, whereas in Youth Build, they actually focus on us individually and as a whole.
Hi, my name's Kevin. Basically, to add on to what Josh said, with Youth Build, they also, it's like at the beginning of the year, they did before we even started the school year, they took the time out on orientations, and they did one-on-ones with the students and asked them real deep questions. And then they even said that they keep checking up on you either once or twice a month. I forgot which one it was. But in regular schools, it's not a lot of that. Like, I could count on my one hand how many times when I was going to my old school, I went to talk to my counselor to ask a teacher to help me with something, because I didn't feel like it was that support for me there.
Building off of both of my peers' response, John and Kevin, about the whole individual development plan, I do believe that other schools need to take part in that to get to know their students more. And like, cause I don't wanna, brag about our school. I wanna talk about the whole district and what they should implement for their students in order to succeed. Like, for example, it's some teachers in school that are just there to teach out the curriculum. Like, maybe the principal comes to observe like what they're doing in class, and you see the teacher teaching. Some teachers are not there to actually ensure that the student understands what they're being taught, or even if they do their homework. Some teacher won't push you. They just give you that F. So I feel like it is important in order for the teachers to actually sit down with their students, and it's important for the schools to have advocate counselors for their students, guidance counselors, social workers, like put multiple people in multiple positions to ensure student success in order to better understand their students.
Go ahead, let's go. My question for the male youth,
how do we get those difficult, those males who are perceived to be difficult in school, who are gang related, into leadership positions to lead in school to change things?
I think an easy answer for that is just trust them. Like teach them first. Teach them the right way, because we're saying, like, for me, like we already think they're dangerous. Like, I don't know why, like, that notion around, like, some people that are in gangs, it's either like they had to because of family related like reasons, or that's how they support themselves. It's not always this person is a threat to everybody in this school because they had to do what they had to do. You get what I'm saying? Like, why even have to question putting them in a leadership role? Because if this student is in a leadership role, why can't this one be in a leadership role because they're in a gang? Yeah, that's not the ideal position that a teacher would like a student to be in, but we're supposed to try to get them out of those circumstances. But saying that you're already a delinquent, you're already categorized as a threat, so I'm not gonna put you in that role, that's what you're gonna continue following the same cycle. Nobody is saying I'm gonna give you a chance. Nobody's saying I believe in you. So I'm gonna do what I have been doing to get by. Like, that's how I see it. If you don't believe in somebody, if you don't give them the opportunity to change, how are they gonna change?
Will, and then
Wow. Like I say, to answer your question, is knowledge of self. Cause like, once you figure out, once you figured out where you came from, like, you figure out where you need to go. You feel me? So like, once you learn knowledge of self, all of the stuff that you did, like, basically, how can I put it? Once I see all of the stuff that my ancestors went through to get me to where I'm at right now, I look at all of the stuff that I'm doing, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm supposed to be, like, going, like, you feel me, harder. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then one more thing, too. To answer you. What was the question that, what's your name again? I forgot. I know you too.
You spent a lot of time reminding us. But no, I was asking how can we implement something in the beginning of the school year that allows teachers to know exactly who they're teaching, their circumstances, the conditions, who their parents are, right? Because then I understand exactly, if I'm a leader, and I am a leader, but I want to be able to teach you and meet you where you are, and not believe that it's like, one shoe fits all, curriculum, right? So how can I do that? What do you think that the school district can do to make sure that we're teaching the individual and not the curriculum?
At my school, this is why I like NSA. I ain't gonna lie to you. NSA really different. It's like, for me, traditional school is really not for everybody, but like, we do something called Challenge Day. Feel me? It's when all of the teachers come and spill out their life to you, what they been through. You feel me? Because if you got a teacher in your face that went through some of the stuff that you went through, like, you feel me, it's going to make a bond. Like, you feel me, you understand what I went through. Like, you went through it too. It's like we do a challenge day, then we do something like a body box. They make us draw us, like, you got to pick a pair, it's 2 people. They make us draw ourselves in a box, right? And put everything that hurt us in that box. We all talk about it as a class, because now, we all talking about it as a class. That's making us better, for one, because we all understand, like, feel me, if he having a bad day, now I know why he probably could be having a bad day, instead of me not, you feel me, knowing what's going on with my peers. So, like, we do a body box so we can know where everybody head at, so we can help each other.
And I know NSA intentionally talks about knowledge of self, teaches it. I saw the jacket, by the way. I want to see how can I get one. I'm just saying. But I'm just saying. But how did you learn knowledge of self?
Yeah, going on trips, cause like the more I got out of Newark and the more like I was going to different places and getting information that like I didn't see traditionally, like when I was growing up in different schools, like it really opened my eyes to like a lot of like, yeah, oh yeah, we had went to a slave plant. Well, the second, was it the second biggest? Or yeah, it was the second biggest slave. No, the second family biggest. No, how can I say it? Well, the true family, they summer house. Like when we had went to their summer house, it was just like you could feel a death when you step on the plantation. Like you could feel like this wasn't somewhere it was like we were supposed to be at. Like that joint was crazy. We went into the house where they had the slaves sleeping at. Mind you, oh, like it's like this is where they cook at. They had the slaves sleeping upstairs. It was cold. Like you could feel like the death in the room. And it was like, yo, like we really came from a lot. Like that's really what helped me with knowledge itself.
Yeah. All right. So to build on what she was saying, what he was saying, to answer your question about gang-related things and how we can get them into more connection with leadership, it's hard, right? I feel like with gang-related youth, I feel like that's all they see, right? And I feel like they have a barrier in front of them that they can't see past something. You know, they can't see past the block, the end of the corner store. They don't have the experiences that other people have. They don't have the resources, right? Other people have opportunities to be on trips and get to see what's outside of North, what's farther beyond the corner store, right? And I feel as though if we put them in more positions like that, their barrier that's in front of them will come down. And it's not even just experiences, it's people within our community that could actually talk to them. Sometimes they need people to believe in them because they don't believe in themselves. So it's like, if they don't have a support system, as people would say, if they don't have somebody to believe in them and they don't believe in themselves, that barrier that they see, it's not gonna come down. And it takes time because they spent all their lives looking at one thing. It's a mindset thing. So they don't have a growth mindset as we would have, right? This is not all the youth in North. You know, there's a few. This is not even, like, this is nothing, right? And we could talk about it a whole bunch, but to get them more into leadership things, I feel like they need a belief system and they need experiences. And for you, another thing, I feel like it's not just sitting down with them and knowing where they come from, because if you don't know what they've been through or been what they've been through, it's like, how can you really understand? You understand? So it's like, I don't really think it's the teaching part. I think it's the, I don't know, I think it's the background, the history of where they come from. And I feel like they know better about where they come from and who they are themselves, then they could be better or come to school more safe than they already are. You know, they already looked at a certain way when they come to school, so they don't feel safe to be who they are or to be themselves. So if they're looked a certain way already, it's like, why would I care to be taught something in class?
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to add on what everybody was saying. I feel like it's the lack of care that our staffs in the school districts and communities, I feel like they don't care enough. If they cared enough, they would sit there and try to understand what we're going through, understand what kids go through at home. Me personally, growing up, no, as soon as I turned 16, I started working. So having to go to school and work at the same time, it was hard. So having me go to teachers and ask them for extensions on homework and them just saying no and giving me zeros, it was like they don't care. If they cared enough, they would understand where I'm coming from. Because me, I don't ask my mother for nothing because she struggles on her own. So therefore, I'm going to struggle and give myself what I need and what I want, so she don't got to worry about me. And I'm pretty sure it's kids that go through way worse than what I go through. Some kids don't even have a roof over their head. They hop from house to house, and staff don't even care about that. They care about, oh yeah, I told you to do it, so go ahead and do it. No, it's really the lack of care that students have, well, staff have.
Hi, my name is Kayla. To piggyback off of what you said, I think it take a person to tell a story in order for the youth to feel a connection and tell their story. From the school that I come from, it was this one student. He been to jail. Right now, he teach a class at Records or whatever. He told his story, and it basically opened my eyes because, like, he had to overcome all that to basically get to where he is now. Like, he still got pending cases open. And, like, in the beginning of the school year, we got this thing called mental toughness. So you got to go through, like, phases or whatever to push through or whatever. And we did this activity called Trust Fall. So, like, one of the staffs asked us, like, do you trust the students in here? Half of us say no. So we did this activity called Trust Fall. You put a chair, you had a chair in the middle of the floor. Whew, hold on, y'all. We had a chair in the middle of the floor. A student stood on a chair, and like the group, like 6 or 7 people, they locked arms, and basically you had to stand on the chair and look like straight or whatever, and then just fall and hope they catch you or whatever. And basically that's what every student did, and yeah, it basically built trust or whatever. So like I feel as though like it take that one person to tell a story so you could feel that connection and tell your story.
To answer, this kind of ties into both of you guys' questions. I feel like the first step would be to be trying to push these students out of their, comfortability. You can't grow or you can't go anywhere if you're comfortable. If you're uncomfortable, it means you're growing. It means you have to get used to the next step, Next, I would say, piggybacking off of what she said, build trust. If your students don't trust you, they're not gonna wanna reach out to you or they're not gonna wanna talk to you. They can't trust you with what they tell you about their personal experiences. It's a movie called Freedom Writers. I don't know if y'all seen it before, but it's very similar to, the Newark Public Schools. So it was a teacher, she was white. She didn't understand why they was treating her the way that they was treating her, which they basically was treating her like an outsider because that's how they saw her. She didn't have to experience what they had to experience. So once she came up with the idea to, have them write in their journals about what they be going through or how they feel, that kind of pushed them out of their comfortability, and that showed them that she actually cared. She gave them the opportunity to leave their journals if they were comfortable enough with her for her to read them. Once the students noticed a pattern with, they friends and they homegirls and they homeboys, like once they noticed a pattern of them actually being on top of their work, like that gave them comfortability. So once you build that trust and comfortability, that gives you another option. And then you notice like by the end of the movie, this like the beginning versus the end. The beginning, the students did not believe that they was smart. Like the principal didn't even believe that for them. But she came in and she came with new strategies and new ideas to help these students because she actually cared. Once the students know that you actually care, which it may take a little while because, some people will say they care for you, but the actions don't prove that you actually care. You have to build that trust with them. Your actions have to speak for itself. You can't just say, I understand what you're going through. You have to actually connect with them on a personal level. And even if you can't connect, there's other ways that you could show them that you care. But back to the beginning and the end, the principal was saying, what you're doing is wrong. The honors classes was saying, what you're doing is wrong. You're not teaching these students, you just play games with them all day. But what they don't understand was her strategy was opening the students up to her for them to trust her. And that allowed them to want to intake all the information and intelligence that she was ready to give to them. By the end of that movie, they wanted to kick her out because they saw how greatly these students were striving. The principal wanted to get her out, but the students came together. They had gang violence, they was divided, they all went through their own stuff, but that created a unity in the classroom to fight for her to be able to stay there.
So I'm getting the hook already because we're a little over time. I'm gonna lift up some things that I think I heard quickly. This idea of making sure that we as adults are modeling what leadership looks like. This idea of the biggest piece of the pie, leaders eat last. Remember that. That means if you got leaders who say they get the biggest piece of the pie, that's not a leader. And so we need to think about how we as adults modeling leadership. This idea of the individual responsibility and the community's responsibility, the proactivity of the adults to go and support proactively versus waiting for students to say, oh, I need help. This idea of the compliance-driven school, right, was something that came up. This idea of waiting to find a perfect student. You mentioned that a couple times, right? Like, you need to be perfect to be able to lead. There is no such thing as someone who's perfect. And this idea of people believing enough in young people, right? And what they're capable of. I'm gonna close us out with a quick quote that I've made a little bit of my own quote. It's attributed to Einstein, but who knows? But it's a quote that says that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes asking questions and only 5 minutes on the answer. And what I would encourage us all, not just the adults, but the young people to do is to spend time trying to make sure we're asking the right questions. Because I think there's a whole bunch of solutions we throw around, but I sometimes wonder if we are asking the right questions. And so as we go into lunch, I'm gonna ask for us to do two things. One is real tactical. I'm gonna need help putting the tables and chairs back because we gotta make sure we're ready for lunch. But the second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask the adults in the room and the young people who are in the room to not go to then their silos. You know, the young people at one table and the adults at another table, but to actually go and ask that question you didn't get to ask, Miss Lee, right? For young people to find the adult to be able to say that one thing you maybe didn't get a chance to share because we had to wrap up, okay? So that the conversation continues beyond just this cool thing we did one time.